Yes. All right, guys. So let's get started with this week's economy current affairs. So these are the topics that we will be having a look at. The very first topic is about achieving sustainability in the rice production. Now, why is this rice production in news? Because see, till very recently, India was the second largest producer of rice. Now India has basically crossed, or let's say overtaken, China and become the largest producer of rice in the world. Now of course this production is going to be changing year on year, so there can be a possibility in the future again China overtakes, but right now, as of now, India has become the largest largest producer. In fact, India is also the largest exporter as well. Second is China. So that is why it is in news. However, we want to look at the sustainability of our rice production. So we are growing the highest amount of rice, but it is not as such sustainable. We'll see why, specifically with respect to the water requirement. It's not that the water requirement is too big, that is the only reason. That is one of the reasons, but the issue is it is being grown in areas where there is no groundwater table as well at a higher level. The groundwater table is depleting in those regions it is being grown. So these are the things that we will look at in this particular topic. Next is about the silver price, which surged approximately 160% in 2025. Yes. So we have seen that in the year 24, 25, gold prices have also surged. At the same time in 25, the silver prices have also surged. In fact, the silver has beaten the gold price when it comes to surging in the year 2025. So we will understand as to what are the reasons as to why this price surge took place, right? Then the third one is the news about Indian Railways electrification drive. Now 99.2% of Indian Railways electrification has taken place. Now almost all but 5 states of India have seen 100% electrification of Indian Railways. We'll see which are those 5 states which are still remaining. Very soon they will also be 100% electrified, but because of that it's not yet 100%, but this is very close to 100%. We'll see the other countries as well, where do they lie. Then you have the FTA impact. India's trade deficit. What is this FTA? This is the free trade agreement, right? So the impact of free trade agreement is quite evident in India's trade. Now it should have been evident in a positive manner, but not so positively. Why is that the case? Because it is being seen that the countries or the regions or the organizations with which we have the free trade agreement, India is having trade deficit with these countries, right? And its trade deficit has increased after free trade agreement. That means India's free trade agreement is not helping India as much as it is helping the country with whom India is having the free trade agreement. I hope that's clear. So this is what we will discuss. And then the last, a very current affairs oriented news, which we'll see factually as well, the Ayush Export Promotion Council. So for the promotion of the goods of Ayush, Ayush is a ministry in itself which consists of goods and services with respect to Ayurveda, Unani, so on, Yoga, Siddha, so on and so forth. So there is an export promotion cell of that which is celebrating the 4th anniversary, as a result of which it is in news. So we will have a look at it, what this is and what this does. So now let's get started with the very first news, that is achieving sustainability in the rice production. So rice production, India is now top, so we need to now focus on its sustainability. Right, so what's the news about India becoming world's largest rice producer in 2025? It's also important to note that we have overtaken China over here. Now, India basically accounts for 40% of global rice exports. Not the production, the global rice exports. That means a huge amount of rice is being exported also from India to the rest of the world. So this is also quite important. Now the rice exports have crossed 20 million metric tons, 20 million tons basically. This fact, okay, fine, this is quantitative fact, but this fact is considerably more important. However, even after that, now this is a good thing, but there is a concern. Now in 2016, Economic Survey had come up with a concept of India being the net water exporter country. Right, so the issue that we are facing right now is linked to that. Now what does this mean? See, every country exports and imports. So when we export a good, along with it, indirectly we are also exporting the water. Now why is that the case? See, because when we are exporting a good, let's say 1 kg of rice, now since the other country is buying that 1 kg of rice from us, they will not have to produce that 1 kg of rice. But that 1 kg of rice requires around 3,000 to 4,000, means close to half ton of water to produce. That means that country will not have to spend that much amount of water, and India has already spent that much amount of water. So it is as good as exporting that much amount of water to the other country. And if the other country is sending us certain goods and services which does not require much water, so the water we may avoid spending because of our imports may not be much. As a result of which, what will happen is India will become a net exporter of water. And rice is one of the biggest culprits of that, because rice is a water intensive crop or a water guzzling crop. So because of this water intensive nature, as a result of which we are becoming net exporter of water. That means virtual water export is happening from India to the rest of the world. As a result of which we need to find out sustainable method for the production of rice. Now let's look at certain key facts about the rice cultivation. So here on this map you can see the regions which are prominent with respect to cultivation of rice. So you can see the northern belt over India, of India, the Ganges belt over here. You can see the peninsular region, the south of India completely here. In fact, starting from here, right here, it is on the shore, the maritime boundary regions that are there, all are growing rice over here. So this is the region where rice is prominently grown over here. Even you have Uttar Pradesh as well, West Bengal as well, and of course the South Indian states are also present. Now, it is staple food for 65% of the Indians, including me. It is our staple food for at least 65% of the people. What about the rest of them? A lot of people's staple food might be roti, for example, or other grain, for example, millets are also there. But 65%, that means majority of Indians. Now, this rice production covers 25% of the total cropped area. That means if 100 units of area is being cropped, 25 units of area is being cropped for rice and rice alone. As we have seen in the beginning, India ranks first in the rice production as well as exports. Now, of course, it is followed by China, as we have seen. The third ranked country here is Bangladesh. As we should all know, it is a kharif crop grown in the rainy season. So it is sown in June, July and harvested around September, October, whereas it can go into the end of October, beginning of November. In fact, I want to link this to the stubble burning that takes place in Delhi, which leads to pollution. So because of the variety of rice that we are growing, Pusa 44, so it takes around 150 days to grow. So its harvest starts in end of October, which may shift to November also. And by the time November comes, winter sets in Delhi, and that's when the stubble burning also takes place. And because it is winter, the smoke remains at a very low level in the atmosphere and does not even escape. So now the government bodies, in fact, the Indian Agricultural Research Council is basically researching about, in fact, they have come up with another Pusa variety which will require less time to grow. So the harvesting will take place sooner. So the stubble burning, though, you should not burn it, it creates smoke, but the farmers, it's not that they don't listen. The issue is it needs money or it needs mechanization, and both of which is not present with the farmer. That is why, for cost effective manner, they burn it. So if they burn it beforehand, before the winter sets in, it will help us to reduce the pollution. The pollution may not stay in the atmosphere, it may escape to higher levels so that breathing may not be that much of an issue. And mind you, agriculture is not the sole reason for Delhi's pollution. The high per capita income leading to high ownership of the four-wheelers, leading to higher pollution, industrial pollution, vehicular pollution, all those things are also involved. Having said that, let's move ahead. Other thing is with respect to the requirement of the climatic condition for rice. So the optimal temperature requirement is 30 degree in the day, 20 degree at night. So it's a good high amount of temperature that is required over here. Rainfall, of course, high rainfall. In fact, water, because water requirement is very high, so more than 100 centimeter of rainfall is required. It thrives in a soil with pH 5.5 to 6.5. That means it thrives on acidic soil, slightly acidic soil. Okay? So pH value less than 7 is acidic, more than 7 is going to be basic, so slightly acidic. Highest top producers are Uttar Pradesh, Punjab and West Bengal. Let's move ahead. The rice techniques, if we talk about, so two prominent techniques are there. The first is the traditional transplantation. So what happens here is the rice seeds are basically germinated in the nursery and later on transferred to the agricultural field. That is the traditional transplantation. Nursery, it's raised in the nursery. The seedlings are transplanted after 25 to 35 days. However, in this method, there is more requirement of labor and it is water intensive. Okay. Moving on, yes, this graph is important, as we have seen that rice exporting India is top in rice exporting also. Next is the direct seeding of rice. In direct seeding of rice, the seeds are inserted directly to the ground for growing. The pre-growing in the nursery and all is not taking place over here. It saves a lot of water as well as labor. Right? Now let's look at government's initiative for sustainable rice. So government has come up with initiative with respect to sustainable agriculture in general. So specifically it can help rice as well. So one of the thing is promotion of direct seed technique. This one that we have seen, the direct seeding of rice. So the government is promoting this as it saves water. Plus you have the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, wherein we talk about more crop per drop. Now, how is that possible? That will be possible by providing irrigation facilities, specifically micro irrigation facilities, which saves a lot of water. So that is also done specifically in Punjab and Haryana, which are the states that grow a huge amount of food grains, that is rice. Then you have the climate resilient varieties. So ICAR, Indian Council of Agricultural Research, is working on such varieties that are there. At the same time, fortified rice is being rolled out in various schemes. Two major schemes that are there. One is the National Food Security Act, the other is PM Poshan. Now what is National Food Security Act? In which 75% of the rural population and 50% of the urban population, that approximates to around 66% of the total Indian population, gets cheap food grains under National Food Security Act. What is this PM Poshan? Earlier it was known as the midday meal scheme, wherein cooked food is given to students from standard 1 to standard 8th. So this was earlier known as midday meal scheme. It has been rebranded as the PM Poshan Abhiyan. Poshan basically means nutrition. Poshan means nutrition, right? Then other things about the sustainable development is the millet policy signal. So the government is also focusing on millets. Why it is a sustainable method? Because millets are drought resistant crops. They require less food, less water, and they also are quite nutritious in nature. So this will lead to diversification from rice, specifically in the water stressed regions. Right? Now, let's look at some of the concerns of rice cultivation. So 1 kg of rice, as I mentioned, requires 3000 to 4000 liters or kgs of water. Liter and kg, 1 kg of water is equal to 1 liter of water. Why is that the case? Is 1 kg of palm oil equal to 1 liter? Absolutely not. 1 liter of oil is basically going to be less than 1 kg, coming around 970, 960 grams. So why is that the case? See, 1 kg of water is equal to 1 liter of water, because there is a concept of specific gravity, and the specific gravity of water is 1. So whatever the quantity of water in kg is the quantity of water in liter as well. But since the specific gravity of oil is more, that is why its weight in kg will be less for 1 liter volume of water. Remember that for your science and tech as well. Now coming back to this, 1 kg of water requires around 3000 to 4000 liters of water. Now somewhere you will also find this number to be as high as 5000 liters, that means 0.5 ton, but at least 0.3 to 0.5 ton, 0.3 to 0.4 ton of water is what is required by rice. I hope that's clear. So now what does that do is that increases the requirement of water for rice. Now the issue is there are certain regions in India which have a lot of rain, so you can grow it. But when we have seen that in that slide where you talk about the topmost rice producing state, Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal, Punjab. Punjab was also there. No, Punjab, the rain is not high in Punjab. Punjab uses irrigation facilities for growing rice, as a result of which they are sucking out the groundwater and the groundwater table is going down. That is why it is a concern. So it is being grown in the water scarce region, as a result of which the groundwater is declining. The classical example are Punjab and Haryana over here, wherein the water table have dropped from 30 feet to 800 to 280 to 200 feet. That means if this is the ground level, this was the water table level in Punjab and Haryana, around 30 feet below, but now it is somewhere here around 80 to 200 feet below. So that is an issue. Rice also contributes to around 10 to 20% of India's agricultural global GHGs, that is greenhouse gases. Now this is not just that a striking number, because we have already seen that rice accounts for 25% of the cropped area. So but obvious that around about 20-25% of GHG will also be released. So it's not that it is quite harmful over here, it is just that it is such a huge quantum that a huge amount of GHG is released by rice. Another important factor is the water content or the water requirement. Now what further happens is, because the water table is going down, now earlier water table would have been here, it went down to here, it will further go down here. As you go deeper into the earth's surface, there is going to be contamination with heavy metals. Example over here being that of arsenic, as a result of which when the water comes from the lower parts of the earth, it will have heavy metal toxicity. So that will also lead to a lot of concerns, health concerns, because toxicity will enter the food chain. So what is the way forward? Way forward is to the subsidy reforms, shift to income and ecosystem service payments. That means we need to incentivize sustainable methods that are there. Technological adoption, we need to come up with better varieties of rice that is there. Policy strengthening, banning of new bore wells in critical zones. If it is a critical zone wherein the groundwater is already low, you should not be allowed to dig a bore well there, is what is being suggested. Community-led groundwater governance, that means social audit needs to be done. Climate resilient agriculture needs to be there, so diversification of crop, agroforestry, micro irrigation facilities, all those things needs to be utilized in order to ensure that the water use efficiency is very high. Okay? So this is what can be done. Let's move on to the next news, that is why silver prices have surged 160% in 2025. Now gold prices have also surged, but silver has edged the gold prices, so we will see why. Both are having the similar capabilities. When the market is not doing well, you would want to invest in a physical asset. Gold is a physical asset which is highly liquid. Silver is also a physical asset which is highly liquid. Now you will say land is also a physical asset. Yes, but it's not highly liquid, which the gold and silver are. So people start investing in silver and gold. So what has happened is silver prices have surged by 160% in 2025. It has, as I mentioned, outperformed gold as well. Prices crossed 2.4 lakh per kg, of course. Right. Now, the dual nature of silver is one of the reasons for this particular thing. Let us understand what is this. So silver, now as I mentioned, silver is similar to gold. If you want to invest in physical asset which is highly liquid, you have an option of gold as well as silver. So here both the options are available. But for silver, there is an additional demand which is coming up, because so investment as an investment asset, we are clear about that, but silver is also an industrial material. It is being used in artificial intelligence driven production. It is being used in electronic gadgets, electronic instruments, as a result of which the industry is demanding more and more of silver metal. Physical metal is what is being demanded, because it is being used in the electronic equipment that is being manufactured, as a result of which there is high demand, way higher demand than gold. So what are the things? Photovoltaic cells, renewable energy production also it is used, electric vehicles, batteries, electronics, AI hardware, data centers, all the artificial intelligence related thing you can see about it is going to require silver over here. So you have a huge industrial demand and boom of silver. Okay. Now another issue that happened here was the supply side constraint. Now silver is extracted as a byproduct along with the mining of zinc. At the same time, to get new mines, there will be a long gestation period, environmental regulation, and the declining ore grades. That means the percentage of silver that can be extracted from new identified ores would be lesser than what it is right now. Combining all this, what is happening is the supply of silver is not keeping pace with the increased demand, thus creating more of demand supply mismatch, leading to more increase in the price. Right? Now, if you look at the global supply mismatches, London silver shortage was there in 2025. Now, tight physical availability, that means physical availability was quite less. One important thing was the structural gap between the physical silver demanded and the paper silver instruments. Right? What does this mean? Now the demanded silver is so high, but the silver is not there much. So on paper, theoretically, there is a lot of it, but in reality, practicality, that much is not being mined, further increasing the mismatch. Okay. There was one small incident or time wherein the silver prices did crash also at time. That was, see, I'll tell you the entire story about it. So US, China were having a tariff war. First, USA imposed tariffs, increased tariffs on China, went up to the tune of 145%. Then China also imposed tariff on USA to the tune of 125%. When they were imposing so much tariff on each other, people wanted to invest in other things, silver being one of them. The prices were skyrocketing. But then these two countries decided to come up to a cooling off period, or the peace clause, wherein they will reduce their tariffs. When they reduced their tariffs, so again these countries became a good avenue for investment. So people started taking out money from silver and started investing elsewhere. So for that period of time, there was a decline in the prices of silver, but overall the silver prices have kept on increasing in 2025. I hope that's clear. Now, if you look at the investment flows in comparison with gold, we'll see that there was a spillover from the rising prices of gold. So when the prices of gold were also rising, now you have 10 gram of gold worth 1.4 lakh. So that is way costly. In 1.4 lakh, you can have more than half kg of silver. So if you want smaller amount to be invested, people were spilling it over into the silver. Plus, it helps you to hedge against inflation, currency depreciation. It acts as a safe haven for storing your investment, so on and so forth. Okay. So gold, safer investment is there. Silver is of course more sensitive, but people were investing specifically due to the industrial demand as well. And as I have told you previously, silver outperformed gold during this period. I hope that's clear. So that was our second news. Let's move on to the third one, that is Indian Railways electrification drive. As I have already told you, there are certain facts which you need to keep into mind over here, specifically for your prelims. 99.2% of India's broad gauge or railways broad gauge network has been electrified. Now, what is this broad gauge? So you may know that this and this, so this is something like a railway track on which the train runs basically. Okay? So now these two are the track on which the train runs. Now these are sleepers is what we call in between. Now what is gauge? Gauge is basically the distance between this and this parallel track. That is gauge. So this distance is known as gauge. Now there are certain types of gauge. I'll give you the example of gauges. One is your broad, or you say gauge. So you have the broad gauge. Then you have the meter gauge. Then you have the narrow gauge. These many are enough for you. So meter gauge means the distance between these two would be 1 meter long. Narrow gauge would be the kind of trains you find it in Darjeeling, etc., in the northeastern region, right, wherein they are passing through the Ghats. The railway tracks are smaller, so you may find narrow gauge over there, which is less than 1 meter, right? And then this broad gauge is slightly more than 1.68 meters. So this is the broad gauge. All the trains majorly that are there, the Shatabdi, the Rajdhani, the Garib Rath, or any other train that you actually have transporting people, freight from one place to another, is on the broad gauge. Broad gauge is the most prominent, most important, having the highest weightage. So this is the broad gauge that they are talking about, and 99.2% of it has been electrified so far. So the coverage is how much? 69,427 kilometers out of a total of 70,000 kilometers. This data is as of November 2025. So it will further keep on happening. Now, as I said, the broad gauge is 1.676 meter. This is broad gauge. I've also told you the meter gauge, which is 1 meter, and the narrow gauge, which is less than 1 meter. If you look at the historical evolution of electrification, the first railway electrification took place in 1925. First electric train, important for your prelims, ran from Bombay Victoria Terminus to the Kurla Harbour. Okay? Moving ahead. Now, this is important to see the acceleration. So, if you look at this chart or the histogram, in 2004 to 14, the electrification rate was 1.42 kilometers per day, and in 2019 to 2025, it is 15 kilometers per day. So, that is quite high. Now, growth in electrified track share. So, 24% in 2024, it was more than 96% by 2024. 24% in 2000 and more than 96% in 2024 and 99% by November 2025. So that's a considerable increase that we are talking about. Now, so overall railway has been electrified to the tune of 99.2%. However, in 25 state and union territories, they have been 100% electrified. That means there are certain states in which 100% electrification has not taken place, and these states are Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Assam and Goa, wherein these are the only 5 states with residual non-electrified sections. That means some small amount of sections that are there that are not electrified. The residual section is very small, of 574 kilometers only, which is distributed among these 5 stages. Now, what is the benefit of electrification? It is 70% more economical than the diesel track. Environmental consideration is also there. The carbon emission is lower, the pollution is less, and the fossil fuel dependency, of course, is also less over here. Now, this is the global comparison with and the renewable energy integration. So, if you look at global comparison, Switzerland has 100%, India has 99.2%. You can see China is also less than us, and then Spain, Japan, France, Russia, and United Kingdom. So, we are doing quite well over here. If you look at the renewable energy integration, what does this mean? See, our railways are electrified, so electricity should come from certain source. That source can be thermal power plant using coal or renewable energy also. So if we use thermal power plant only, what is the use of electrification? Because thermal power plant leads to electricity production from coal, which again is polluting. So we need to focus on renewable energy. So we can see that around 898 megawatt as of November has been commissioned with respect to electrification of the railways. So it was just close to 4 megawatt in 2014. It has increased 244 times. So that is again a considerable amount that we are talking about. I hope that's clear. Let's move on to the next article or the next news. Now the next news is about the free trade agreement impact, right? Now, when will a country come in a free trade agreement? See, two or more than two countries will come in a free trade agreement thinking that they will benefit out of it, and they should. But of course, everyone cannot benefit. If there are two parties, one of them may benefit over the other, right? Both of them cannot benefit, right? So that is fair enough. So if a country comes in a free trade agreement with 10 different countries, in 4 or 5 or 6, they should benefit. In 4, 5, 6, the other country should benefit. But what is happening in the case of India is, the countries with whom India is having a free trade agreement, India's trade deficit with them is increasing. That means India is not gaining much with respect to that. Yes, the volume of trade would increase, but then the deficit of India is also increasing, and that is an issue, and that is why it is in news. Free trade agreement impact. India's trade deficit with the partner countries has widened. Who is saying this? Niti Aayog is saying this. So Niti Aayog's Trade Quarterly Watch report has highlighted what it has highlighted: the widening of India's trade deficit with whom? With the countries with whom India has a free trade agreement. The time period covered was the first quarter of financial year 2025-26. That is the April to June. So April to June 2025 is what is being captured over here. Now what is the key data? Let us have a look at it. The trade deficit with FTA partner has widened by 59%. So that is a huge number. That means if it was 100, now it has become 159.2. So that's a good number, huge number. The exports have failed. Exports have fallen down over here, whereas imports have risen. Export falling, import rising. It's going to be a double-edged sword for India, as a result of which the deficit has increased. Now, there is also a structural shift in India's exports. If you look at electronic exports, there was a growth of 47% year on year, right? So there is a shift towards technology-driven exports that are there. So this is one shining line which is present. Now ASEAN and the import surge. So ASEAN, which is the largest FTA export market for India, what has happened with respect to ASEAN? What is ASEAN? Association of Southeast Asian Nation. So exports to ASEAN contracted by close to 17%. The major declines were seen in Malaysia, almost 40%, Singapore, 13%. And imports on the other hand are rising. So imports from UAE increased by almost 30%. That's a huge number. This gold compounds, petroleum are the reason for that. Imports from China has also increased by 16%. Again, a huge amount. Okay. Now, this data is of high importance for India. Why? Because right now we are negotiating free trade agreement with various countries, USA being one of them. We have completed FTA with New Zealand, which is going to be in force quite soon. So that is, and more FTAs are being negotiated. So it is important for India to take all this into consideration when we go ahead further with FTAs with other countries. Okay. Now, if you look at total exports were $778 billion. Merchandise exports $437 billion, whereas services $341. Now, if you look at it, it is the merchandise exports in which we have a huge amount of deficit, whereas if we talk about services, we do have a surplus. But if we club that up, if this deficit keeps on increasing, by clubbing it, we will be still in the deficit. I hope that's clear. So that is about our free trade agreement. Now next is the Ayush Export Promotion Council. Ayush Excel, that is Export Promotion Council. As I mentioned, the 4th establishment anniversary is being celebrated on 4th of January. It was celebrated, as a result of which it is in news. So what is this Ayush Export Promotion Council? It is basically the nodal export promotion council for the Ayush sector. Ayush sector deals with, as I mentioned, Ayurvedic medicines, Unani, the yoga, Siddha, all those things is what Ayush deals with it. Now so in 2022 it was launched. It is celebrating its 4 years. What is the function of it? It basically, this entire organization is functioning in consultation with Ministry of Ayush and Ministry of Commerce and Industry. So what is the mandate and functions? Let us have a look at it. So its mandate is to build exporter capacity. So exporter capacity building the capacity of the exporters, regulatory compliance facilitation. Of course, any body that is there have to be complying to the things. Now this body is basically regulatory compliance facilitation is what it does. So it ensures, it facilitates. Does it regulate? It does not regulate, but it facilitates the regulatory compliance. Remember, there is a difference. Regulator can come up with rules, regulations, guidelines, but this cannot come up with rules, regulations, guidelines. It just facilitates that the sector is following the guidelines. Okay. Then we'll conduct seminars and overseas outreach programs for publicizing the Ayush Ministry components, the goods and services provided under that, as a result of which strengthening the global market access for Ayush goods and services. Now let's look at the coverage and the quality assurance. So Ayush, what does it cover? A for Ayurveda, Y for yoga. Then you have yoga and naturopathy together, so that is the second component. Then you have Unani, then you have Siddha, Sova Rigpa, and then at the end you have homeopathy, herbal products and traditional healthcare services. Now all these things, so India, see here in this ministry you will also be selling goods and services. Now what services are we talking about? See, many people come to India even for medical tourism. That means getting their ailment resolved, getting the treatment done, specifically in states like Kerala, wherein Ayurveda is quite prominent, and it is also considerably cheap if you look at other countries. So medical tourism is also there. So that's the kind of services that we are providing. At the same time, the products we are also providing, so it becomes goods and services both. Right now, Ayush quality mark anchored by the Ayush Excel, it ensures global quality assurance. So Ayush product will have their own quality marks to ensure the quality of the product. Right now, what does it further do? Trade integration and recognition. The formal recognition of Ayush system in India, Oman, SEPA, India, New Zealand, FTA. This Ayush's recognition is taking place in our various FTAs also that we are signing. So its products or goods and services will get a growth in the countries with which we are having the free trade agreement. Right. Now, what are the other performance and significance? So Ayush and herbal exports, if we look at it, in 23-24, close to $650 million of export was there. Now in 1 year it increased to close to 689. That means $30 million of increase. So approximately 6% of increase was there. So this is increasing, which is a good thing for us. I hope that's clear. So this is what the Ayush Excel basically does. Okay, so these were the news for today. Now let us quickly solve the questions related to the news that we have just seen. The first question, which of the following best explains why silver outperformed gold during 2025 commodity rally? First, silver has both industrial and investment demand, making it more sensitive to energy transitions and digital expansion. Yes, but let's look at other options as well. Silver production increased faster than the gold production. Absolutely right. If this would have happened, the prices would have come down. Central banks increase silver reserves more than gold. No, that is not correct. And anyhow, in foreign exchange reserve of RBI, Reserve Bank of India, it is monetary gold, not silver. Then you have silver prices are fully regulated by international commodity agreements. That is also incorrect. So the first option A is correct. That is, silver has both industrial and investment demand, making it more sensitive to energy transition and digital expansion. Let's move ahead with the second question. With reference to railway electrification in India, consider the following statements. Statement 1, railway electrification in India began before independence. Yes, that is correct. So this option is gone. Electric traction is significantly more economical than diesel traction. Absolutely correct. So this is also gone. Now this should be actually 1, 2 and 3. So this will also be gone. You will be left with, no, sorry, this is correct. So yes, this option should be 1, 2 and 3. So we still have 2 options remaining. All states and union territories have achieved 100% railway electrification. That is incorrect. So this will become incorrect and this will be correct. Only 1 and 2. Next, according to Niti Aayog Trade Watch quarterly report, India's widening trade deficit with FTA partner countries in Q1 financial year 26 was primarily associated with decline in service exports and remittance inflows. Nope. Contraction in exports to ASEAN and rising imports of electronics and gold compounds. Yes, but let's see other options as well. Reduced exports to North America and European Union, but this was more so, right? The percentages were higher. Increase in petroleum exports to West Asia. No, that will not increase the deficit. That will lower the deficit. So yes, B is the correct answer over here. Next, with reference to rice cultivation in India, consider the following statements. Number 1, rice cultivation in northwest India is significantly contributes to methane emission due to the prolonged flooding of fields. Is it the case? Remember the map. Next, direct seeded rice reduces water use primarily by eliminating the need for continuous field submergence. That is correct. So 2 is correct. This is gone. This is gone. 2 is correct. Producing 1 kilogram of rice in India requires less water than the global average. That is, so now global average, if you talk about the global average, we have seen in India there is a requirement of around 3000 liters to 4000 liters. Okay. So 2 is correct. Now 3 and 1. So we are left with this and this. So we have to choose between 3 and 1. In India, the requirement of water for rice growth is very high. So 3 will be incorrect and the first option will be correct. So in northwest India, there is going to be significantly contributes to methane emission due to prolonged flooding of fields. See, that is the case anyhow. So if you are saying it's the case here, does not mean it's the case. It's not the case somewhere else. Moving ahead. With reference to Ayush Export Promotion Council, that is Ayush Excel, consider the following statements. First, it was launched during the Global Ayush Investment and Innovation Summit held in Gandhinagar 2022. Yes, that is correct. It was launched in Gandhinagar specifically. We have seen the year 2022, but the place was Gandhinagar. The council anchors the Ayush Quality Mark program to strengthen global quality assurance of Ayush products. Yes. Ayush systems have received formal recognition in certain bilateral trade agreements. Yes. So all the statements here are correct about Ayush. All right. So please also go through the readers in detail, right? And if you have any questions, you can ask in the comment sections. We will reply to that as well. Thank you.